Okay, in this one, I want to talk about trauma, meditation, thoughts, and awakening, and how they're all tied together. I'm not going to veer too far out of my own experience because that's all I can really share with integrity. And I have to do a disclaimer, I am not a psychiatrist, a psychologist, I'm not a counselor, I'm not licensed. I just had an experience that was very intense, very life changing. And I share now because I know other people have gone through it, are going through it. And honestly, I just am making the videos that I wish existed when I needed them. There was always stuff about the mental and the thoughts and the meditation and the focus, but I didn't find as many videos. And I know they're out there. It just, there wasn't as much on the emotional intensity and how trauma can be a gateway, how it can block you, and just a lot of strong emotions coming up and what to do with them, what it looks like, and how it ties into the whole process of awakening. So let's get into it. A lot of you know my story on here, so I won't go into details. I have videos about that. And the dark night of the soul, which I'll briefly touch on here, but I won't go into length. I just want to talk about how trauma really got in the way, didn't get in the way. It needed to be dealt with first before any kind of real freedom or awakening was possible. So I didn't realize this, and I wish somebody told me, but I didn't have a teacher. I was just kind of stumbling through this stuff, half blind and really unaware of what I was doing. So I'm just making this video hoping that if anybody's going through it, then this will help. So this is for someone really starting out or getting to the point where like things are getting worse. Yeah, that's who this is for. And if you've gone through this, then you'll probably just relate to what I'm saying. But when it comes to awakening, everybody wants the good stuff. You know, they want the non-dual experience, the no self, the absolute peace, the blissed out crazy moments that do happen. And they're great. But what I found when I was in the middle of the process is things were getting emotionally worse and I was getting very unstable the more I practiced and inquired and meditated and tried to awaken, which is the wrong way to do it. But it's what happened to me. So I was really trying to force awakening to happen or some kind of breakthrough that gave me peace because I felt so much unrest and fear and anxiety. And I wasn't aware that the practice I was doing, instead of giving me peace, like using meditation to get peace, which is not a good way to do it, the meditation was showing me where to look and what to deal with to find and get through it so I could see the peace that was already there. So peace is not to be gained. Absolute peace and bliss and oneness is here right now for everyone. The reason that people don't see it, including myself in the past, is because I had so many stories and emotions and stories tied to emotions and emotions tied to stories. There was just a web of unfelt trauma, resistance, angst that was blocking me from seeing what was right in front of my face. So a lot of times people will start to meditate and they will get worse. And that is by design. Meditation shows you what's going on in there. So for me, it was just like not only 1,000 thoughts a minute, it was too much to even focus or have any kind of meaningful meditation. But it was just even on top of the thoughts, it was like this underlying uncomfortable static of just feeling, but I wasn't even sure what it was. It was just uncomfortable. And then I started counseling, and my counselor was pointing me to feel into the stories I was telling because I would just tell stories like a robot. I didn't have any feeling attached to them. And I became quickly aware that I was emotionally inept and unable to feel or explain a feeling or the differences between feeling. Now, when I started doing that, and I was meditating every day still, I was trying so hard, although I hated it and it wasn't fun and it wasn't helping in the way that I wanted to help. It was helping, just not how I wanted it to. Because I didn't know. I didn't know this is how it works. So the silence shows you what's in there. Most people have a lot of unfelt emotions, resistance, hidden stuff, pushed down stuff, and that all comes with just layers and layers and layers of blockages to experience reality as it is. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I probably still have some, but I finally peeled away enough layers that you get to a point where you start trying to heal yourself, and then you do get to a point where healing becomes almost like a funny idea because there is nothing to heal. When you finally get rid of the resistance and you're able to feel all this stuff that was unfelt, your mind gets quieter because beliefs and thoughts go with the emotions when they move through you. When you're able to feel them and they move through, a lot of the thoughts attached to them also just go with it and disappear. So every time I was able to feel something or release something or forgive someone, my meditation got quieter and I noticed it. And that was a little indicator that I'm on the right track. So I kept doing it. But then it got to a point where my meditation, it just started to get quieter, but then it turned back around. To where I thought I was doing better, but then it turned back around and started getting louder and started getting more intense, because when I cleared all of the trauma, the childhood stuff, then my present reality started pushing against me in the face. Started pushing it like, are you happy? Are you like, how, your marriage is over, although you're fighting against it. You don't believe in this religion, although you're not telling anyone. Like all these things that I knew, and the truth was pushing against me so hard. And that's when I had to actually make changes in my life. I had to. You don't just awaken into peace without any struggle or without any actual practical changes. Everything's tied together. There are practical changes you have to make in your life. There are struggles, there are feelings, there are tears, all of it's tied together. This is what I didn't know. I thought I could just mentally think, who am I? And I would focus on that long enough that I would pop into some kind of awakening and I would have peace, and then all my problems would go away. And maybe that happens for some people, but that's not my experience, so that's not what I'm sharing. The truth came in and pushed everything with everything it had against me, and it showed me everywhere I was living a lie, and it was almost everything. Almost everything. I was faking, I was lying, I'm a pretty honest, genuine person, but like when this showed up, when the truth showed up, it really flipped the script, and I realized I wasn't taking action because I was scared. I was so scared. I was scared if I left my wife, I would lose my kids. I was scared what people would think. I was scared if I left Christianity, maybe hell's real and I might go there, and I'm scared what people would say, and if I lose my family and my friends and all of that stuff. A lot of it happened, but I wouldn't trade it. I didn't lose my kids. I see them all the time. I love them. And my relationship with my ex is better now, actually. But emotions had to be dealt with first. And the strength and the intensity of the emotions had to be felt so the meditation could get quieter. And then when you finally get through all of your old stuff, then there's all the present stuff. And then you realize you're not healing your present emotions. Like, that doesn't even make sense. How could you heal an emotion? Just think about it. I realized I hadn't felt all of these emotions for the past decade or 20 years. And so obviously when they all came up, it just wrecked my life, which is fine. That needed to happen. But then when all that happened, and I went through an ego death and a dark night of the soul, and I just awakened into absolute peace, there were still emotions. Not nearly as intense, or, well, not nearly as uncomfortable. Still intense. No. There was a couple months of just absolute peace, no thoughts, no emotions, nothing. It was just oneness, bliss. And then more shadow work came back up, because that just seems to be the process. But this time, when shadow work came back up, it didn't come up to me as a personal self with my own story. It showed up in this experience, and I felt it. And things that I used to be scared to feel, that got me stuck for 5, 10, or 20 years, I can now feel in seconds or minutes and let it pass through me in full intensity. And the weirdest thing happens. You just start seeing emotions like thoughts. They come and they go, and they have nothing really to do with the personal self or the stories we tell ourselves. So you just kind of release the grip, the control, because you never had control anyway. You were resisting the natural process. Like I've said in other videos, the wind blows through the trees and nobody questions why or where it's going or why it didn't blow a certain way. It just does what it does. And it's not resisted, and it's beautiful. The same thing happens with emotions and thoughts. But if you are sitting, meditating, on the path, trying to awaken, doing shadow work, counseling, just keep doing it. There's nothing wrong with any of it. But what will happen is eventually the dualistic nature of all of it, all of these conflicting ideas and these fears and these traumas, they all get kind of worked on, shown, felt, and then they release out of your body. You feel lighter. You get more energy. You wake up in the morning like a child. Maybe a little less annoying. And when you feel like laughing, you just laugh. When you feel like crying, you cry. I now cry. I've cried in front of every person I know. I don't even care anymore. I don't resist. I don't stop it from happening. And I don't care what they think about me, because there's not much of a me or a story to attach to it. So you do start by wanting to heal, or maybe even thinking that you're doing healing. And then you end up just transcending the whole idea of healing altogether. Then you move into just feeling. And then you feel long enough, and it comes and goes, and you start to see that, oh, this isn't even personal. This is just part of the human experience. And it's beautiful. And if I don't attach meaning, or push, or pull, or resist any of it, then there's no problems. Now, if I have a really blissed out moment or a day, and then I think, ooh, I want to keep this, how did I get here? How did I do this? And I start telling myself a story, and I start grasping, then all that old stuff will come back. All the uncomfortable, the feelings, the pushing, the pulling, and I will put myself right back into dualistic world. So there is a bit of a give and take for a while as you learn how to just be okay with everything. So the awakening process does end in a very peaceful, beautiful place, but it doesn't bypass or go around the hard stuff or the feeling. That is actually what is looked at. That's the door to get you there. The suffering you don't want to feel, that's what will get you there. And then you can sit with the question, who am I? What is this? What is true? But before you have any kind of emotional stability or any kind of peace, or if you haven't had any initial shift yet, then some of that stuff is probably just a distraction or a coping mechanism to try to find peace because you don't want to feel what you're currently feeling. And no judgment. That's exactly what I did. I'm speaking from experience. I did everything wrong. I'm hoping I can save you some time. If you are uncomfortable and you want to awaken because you want peace, don't look at or focus or try to awaken or even think about peace. Look at what's making you uncomfortable, because that is what's blocking you from realizing the peace that is right here, right now. You don't gain it, you don't find it, you don't work your way there. You don't heal enough to enter into it. It is here. You experience it when you get rid of your own layers. And there are many ways to do that. So I don't really talk about techniques on here because it's really personal to each individual. Some people do yoga, some people meditate, some people journal, some people walk in nature. There's a lot of things you can do. Self-inquiry. But you end up in a place where you just don't actually need any of it. You just experience life as it's happening, and there's really no intrinsic meaning unless you want to add meaning to it. You start to see through everything and everyone because you've seen through yourself, and everything kind of merges into oneness. You realize everything is coming from inside of you. You're projecting everything. Consciousness is fundamental. And it's very interesting and fun. Now, where it goes, how far it goes, I don't know. I'm just speaking from where I'm at and trying to help people that are maybe a few steps behind or in the middle of it. It does get harder, and there are moments where it gets easier than harder, than easier than harder, and that's all part of the process. So don't fight it, don't resist it. But yeah, the emotions and the trauma stuff just has to be looked at first. There's no getting around that stuff. And you'll know when you go to meditate, when you're working, that repetitive thought, the repetitive imagining that you have, that's pointing you, that's pushing you to what to look at, what to feel. And you don't have to journal or go to counseling. All you have to do is feel it. I say that like it's easy, but it's not really easy. But it's doable. I'm not a genius. I figured it out. All right, I got to get better at ending these things. Also, all my videos are going to be weird with lighting because I got new lights and I'm just playing around with stuff, so bear with me. Thanks for watching.